both of those songs talk about that, God, that feeling that we've all been through, right? It's like, where am I? Why is this happening? We've gone through all this life. I've done all of my affirmations. Why is this happening in my life and to me right now, right? Whew. If you haven't ever experienced that, I really want to know. I really want to know. But my experience, and everybody who sits in my office and sits across from me can tell you that life does not always happen like we think it is. Sometimes the room is filled with straw, which is, usually used in barns and stables to pick up the poop, right? To absorb all the mess. And straw can be used in other ways too. Straw can help bind together the mud that make bricks and that we build something else. But straw is usually what's left over, right? So how do we spin straw into gold? How do we do that? I know in my life, in the last couple of weeks, this is my first time giving a talk in over a month because I needed to step back and to reclaim my center. I needed to step back because things were happening that I couldn't control, and they were upsetting my balance, my sense of well-being and purpose. And space is what I needed. But every time I tried to step back, something else came in. Something else pulled me back in. And I found myself doing this dance and this juggle of how do I make something good out of all this muck on the floor? How do I turn this into something that I know is for me? And then one of my good friends who I'd reached out to for support and help used that phrase. It's time to spin straw into gold. And I said, oh, yes, the Rumpelstiltskin story, right? Do you remember the Rumpelstiltskin story? Right? So here's the story. It's a grim, pun intended, fairy tale, right? It is written by the brothers Grimm, and it is grim. So this man is boasting about his daughter. Now, I don't know about any father who boasts about their daughters, but I think that's an exaggeration for this fairy tale. But anyway, I'll go on. He boasts to all of his friends and to the king that his daughter can spin straw into gold. And the king hears this story and says, well, I want some of that. And he calls the daughter to his castle, and he locks her in a room filled with straw and a spinning wheel and says, you will spin this straw into gold, or in the morning you will be executed. Grim fairy tale, I told you, right? And so the poor daughter is bereft and crying. She has no idea how to spin straw into gold. And she cries and cries, and she feels all of her feelings, all the emotions, because she's going to be executed in the morning. She has no idea how to do this. And then something happens, and in the room appears Rumpelstiltskin, this small, pushed down, strange little creature who says to her, I can spin straw into gold, and I'll do it for you for that beautiful glass necklace you're wearing. So she gladly gives him the necklace from around her neck, and he spins all the straw into gold. The next morning, when the king arrives, the room is filled with gold, overflowing with this beautiful gold. And the king is so excited that he takes the daughter and says, great, let's do this again. And he takes her to a larger room, and he fills it with even more straw and says, tonight you will spin all this straw into gold, or in the morning you'll be executed. So once again, she's back there. She did everything. She pulled out from within her everything she could do, but she was crying again, and Rumpelstiltskin comes back. And he once again says, I will spin this for you into gold if you give me that beautiful ring on your finger. And once again, he spins all the gold into straw. There's all the straw into gold. Different story. And the king comes the next morning and says, this is magnificent. This is magnificent. And he takes her to a barn filled with straw, locks her in, and says, if you can spin all of this straw into gold and will marry you and make you my queen. And once again, she's left alone, crying and bereft. And Rumpelstiltskin appears and she says, I need help, but I have nothing left to give you of any value. And he says, you can give me your firstborn child. And with nothing left to give her, she agrees that she will give him a firstborn child because her choice is death, right? And she says, yes. And he spins all the straw into gold. And when the next day comes, the king sees all the gold and is true to his word and marries the princess. Marries the young woman. She becomes the princess and the queen and goes on and lives a happy life with the king. You see, I don't know about the Brothers Grimm, but in today's age, someone threatening to kill you if you don't do what they want doesn't make for good husband material. Just saying, okay? But I digress. We'll stick with the fairy tale for now. And so finally, the queen is living the life. She has a child, and Rumpelstiltskin appears and says, you owe me that baby. And the queen begs. She says, no, I cannot give you this. I cannot. Please, there must be something else. I have all this wealth now. What is it you want? And he says, I don't want any of that. I want your child, but I will do this for you. If you can guess my name in 3 days' time, if you can guess my name, you will be free. So the first day comes and she tries every name she can think of. And he laughs and walks out and says, you have 2 more days. The second day comes and she tries every name on her list. And he says, you still have not a clue. So there she is on the 3rd day, holding her baby, crying and sobbing, feeling like her heart is going to be ripped out from her chest. And she decides at that moment that she needed to take a walk, a journey into the woods. And when she goes deep into the woods, into that place, she comes across this little house. And in it, she sees Rumpelstiltskin, who is singing a song going, you'll never guess my name is Rumpelstiltskin. You'll never guess my name is Rumpelstiltskin. So the next day comes and she's back at the palace. And Rumpelstiltskin comes in and she plays like she doesn't know what his name is. And she finally says to him, your name is Rumpelstiltskin. And he disappears. In different versions of the story, he falls into a pit. He's swallowed by the earth. He rips himself in 2. It's a grim fairy tale. But here's the magic part for me. Unity teaches, and I believe, that every story we tell, the fairy tales, the stories from the Bible, are all representative of different parts of our life. The princess went within. She felt all of her feelings through the end, and she found within her this smushed down small little part that knew how to turn straw into gold. The metaphysics of Rumpelstiltskin is that it was within her. And when the 3rd day's challenge came and she couldn't figure out what to call this part of her that she had disowned, this part of her that wasn't part of her conscious understanding of her power and strength and worthiness and her ability to turn something from straw to gold, she went on a journey, a meditation deep into the woods, where she found the truth of that name, of who that part of her really is. And when she was able to name and claim it, the image of it as something separate from her disappears. And she was able to be whole and restored to health and vitality. The story of Rumpelstiltskin is a beautiful tale of what we will not own within us, what the strength, the wisdom, the abilities that we all have that think we sometimes live without of ourselves or have been told and believed that it is part of ourselves we have to hide. It's something not to be seen and small. The truth is that you are a heart in a world that wants only circles. The truth is you are a unique and magnificent expression of God's good in a world that doesn't see you correctly. In my journey over the last couple of weeks, well-meaning friends have told me a version of this line. Things are not happening to you, Ken. They're happening for you. And I believe this. And at the same time, it is really metaphysical malpractice to tell people who have lost a loved one, who've lost a part of their body through disease, that this is happening for them. It is not ours to tell anyone else what is for them. It is up to the individual to understand what it means for them. And Unity has taught this in many different ways, but one of my favorites was from this teacher, and so we want to be really clear about the difference. This is Eric Butterworth, who was my first Unity minister in New York, and he said, things may happen around you, and things may happen to you. You know, you can get hit by a car. That's happening to you. There's no way around that. But the only things that really matter is what happens within you. And that's where your agency lies. When we look at the story of Rumplestiltskin, we look at the story of that woman locked in room after room and barn, she finds the strength within her by feeling all of her feelings all the way through to conclusion and then finding the wisdom that's within it. So not only did Eric Butterworth articulate this so clearly, that it's happening for you when you use the wisdom within you to make it for you. Not that there's not a God up in the sky or everyone on earth is doing what's best for your highest good. People are doing what they need to do. People are constantly doing what is theirs to do for whatever reason. And it really has nothing to do with us. What has to do with us is what we choose to make of it. There's a huge difference. And this is not a new concept. Epictetus said this, the Greek philosopher said it this way. There is not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. So a Greek philosopher said it, a Unity minister retranslated it, and I'm retranslating it through the tale of Rumplestiltskin today. There is nothing new under the sun. Life is going to happen, and your best laid plans are going to change, and people are going to disappoint you, and things are going to shift because you allow them to shift. When we fight what is, we only lose 100% of the time, right? If we use the football metaphor, this game probably is going to go back and forth. Someone's going to be in the lead, someone's not going to be in the lead. Someone's going to score a goal, someone's going to score a field goal, a touchdown, whatever it's going to be. There's going to be a back and forth. And when we play the game of life, we have to jump in. But it also reminded me of two stories told in the Gospels about Jesus. The first one is Jesus' Beatitudes. Blessed are you when people revile you and say all manner of evil against you falsely. For you are blessed when people revile you and lie about you. How is that true? Right? And so I was thinking about that this week. How can that possibly be true? And it's like when we can stand in our own wisdom and our own authority, when we can stand in our own sense of self and self-worth, people can say anything and it can't knock us off our center. People can do all the outrageous things that people are doing. Have you looked at the news lately? All the outrageous things that people are doing, and we do not lose our purpose and our center. We stay focused on where we want to go, rather than being distracted by the bells and the whistles and the drama and the noise and the nonsense. Nonsense. And there's another story. Jesus talks about it. It's talked about and it's put into the words of Jesus in the Gospel of John. So let me be really clear. It's about the woman caught in the act. The woman caught in the act of adultery. It only appears in the Gospel of John. Did you know that? And some of the oldest copies we have in the Gospel of John don't contain this story. So we don't have any of the originals, but we have some copies that were written in the year 200, between 300. And those versions don't have this story about the woman caught in the act of adultery. The only copy we have where it appears in notes by a scribe who is translating the gospel, and it's written in the margins. And then somehow it got included into the gospel in later copies. Here's the story, right? A bunch of Pharisees and scribes, people who were actively against Jesus' mission and ministry, he was actually preaching against and were out to get him, bring before him and his disciples a woman. And they throw her on the ground in front of him and say, this woman here was caught in the act of adultery. They don't mention what happened to the man. She wasn't doing it alone, but that's another, I digress again. Here we are, patriarchy, you get it. That's another talk. Okay? So they throw this woman on the ground and they say the law, this is by the rules, folks. We must stay with the rules. The law says she should be stoned to death. So everybody picks up their rocks and they're ready to stone him. And they say to Jesus, what say you? And this is a test because they want to catch him. They want to catch him in a trap. They want him to say, no, you should forgive her, because then you say, you are preaching against the laws of Israel. You are blasphemous, or the law says she must be stoned to death. So Jesus, what he does then in that moment is really amazing. In the scripture, if you look at it carefully, he bends down and he takes a stick and he starts writing on the ground with a stick. And he doesn't answer for a while. I like to think of that as Jesus' moment of meditation, contemplation, where he regains his center. And he steps forward and he says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And everybody, one by one, drops their rocks. One by one, all the rocks fall to the ground and everyone disperses. When there's no one left except Jesus and this woman, he says to her, has no one condemned you? And she says, no. He goes, then go and sin no more. Now, that story is amazing for so many reasons. It may not have happened. Rumplestiltskin didn't happen, but it still has spiritual truth. Some scribe wrote it into the margins of a gospel he was translating because it was in the ether. People were telling that story. People were sharing it because it spoke to a spiritual truth that transformed their lives. And it speaks to a spiritual truth that transforms our lives today. People may say all manner of evil against you falsely. People may call you names. People may tell you that you are wrong, that you don't deserve to be here, that you are sinful, that you are flawed, that you don't deserve to exist on this planet and play with the rest of us. That's what's happening in our world today. That's what's happening to us personally and globally. Universally, when we can stand and know the truth of who we are, that we are a magnificent expression of God, we will not be reduced by anything that anyone says or any law that is passed that is unjust and not in our highest interest. Our own Dr. Maya Angelou said it this way. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I will not be reduced by it. I can be transformed by what I've been through. I can learn. I can take what has happened to me, around me, and turn it into something that is for me by going within and doing the work I need to do, like the woman who knows I need to be different. I need to shift myself so that I can experience the fullness of life. Just like my own journey of separation and time away, so that I can remember the truth of who I am, that I am not what anyone says I am. I am not my role. I am not a job. I am not a husband. I am a divine spiritual being here on the planet to make a difference. You are a divine spiritual being brought here by your own will to this planet so that you may fulfill the highest and the best of what's in you. You're here so that the things that happen around you and things that happen to you and things that happen on the planet can be shifted by what happens within you. And that when you let your own light shine as brightly and as magnificently as possible, you can be like the woman in Rumplestiltskin. You can take that straw, that chaff that is thrown at you and thrown on your feet, and you find everywhere in the muck around you, and spin it. Spin it by going within and looking at the truth of who you are. Spin it by doing the spiritual work in your 12-step programs, in your prayer work, in your meditation, and find the name of that part of you that you've long ago disowned. To find the truth that you deserve happiness. Mesa asked the question, do you want to be happy? Do you? Do you want to be happy? Do you want to be happy? Happiness is not brought about by everything on the outside looking like you think it's supposed to look. Happiness comes by you realizing that you are enough. That you are enough for every situation. You are enough because you are here. You are enough because you are alive. You're taking in oxygen and you're transforming what is to what it could be. The work exists within you. I invite you to celebrate the truth of who you are and to spin all that mucky straw into gold.